Hello, Wednesday evening. I'm Roger Johnson. Thank you for joining us and welcome to North West Tonight. Our top story. Controlled explosions as hundreds of homes are evacuated after World War II explosives are found at a house in St Helens.
It's quite scary, really, you know, to know that somebody's had memorabilia like that in the house, and it could have gone up at any time.
We'll have the latest from the scene, where a cordon remains in place tonight. Also in the programme, a jury hears a former prison officer was shot dead 4 years after refusing to take a bribe from a prisoner. The new boss of the Eden project, Morham, tells us after years of delays, work will finally start this summer. The Cumbrian siblings taking on an epic triathlon challenge to raise awareness of mental health struggles among farmers.
A cooler and wetter day for you tomorrow, I'm afraid, but an improving picture. Join me at the end of the programme. I'll have the full forecast for you.
Hundreds of people in St Helens are spending a second night away from their homes after police found several unexploded devices at a house. They were discovered after the death of a local man who hoarded wartime memorabilia, including detonators and other devices. Bomb disposal experts have carried out controlled explosions in a local park. Live to our Merseyside reporter Andy Gill. He's in St Helens for us at the scene tonight. So what's the latest there, Andy?
Well, Roger, the house where these discoveries were made is a couple of hundred yards from here, but this cordon, one of 4 on streets around here, is as close as we can get. On a couple of occasions today, those of us at this cordon were advised by the authorities to move back behind a van or a wall and take what they called hard cover. Now, we don't know why that instruction was given at that particular time. It was only for a few minutes, but I think it gives you some indication of how seriously the authorities are taking the discoveries that they made on the house on Chadwick Road over here. In Eccleston Field in St Helens last night, detonators are set off in a series of safe, controlled explosions supervised by bomb disposal experts. Today, wearing heavy-duty protective gear, they were back at the scene of the discovery. The devices were found at the home of a 64-year-old man called John Nelson. When he died in non-suspicious circumstances, police found room after room full of wartime memorabilia, including explosives, at his home on Monday evening. Police say Mr Nelson lived alone and was a recluse. They think some of the items date from the Second World War because Mr Nelson's father was in the Home Guard at the time. Police say the house represents a challenge for them and bomb disposal experts because all the rooms contain a considerable number of belongings that Mr Nelson had collected over the years. More than 200 houses in surrounding streets have been evacuated. A nearby community centre is coordinating help for those displaced.
Unfortunately, there's not a lot we can do about it, is there? You know what I mean? If allegedly there's ordnance in someone's house, you don't want it blowing up and dropping on your house, do you?
10 to 3, police knocked on my door and said, we need you to evacuate your premises. And I said, when? And they said, well, pretty much now.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable that something like that could happen in a nice area like this, and it's quite scary, really, you know, to know that somebody's had memorabilia like that in the house, and it could have gone up at any time. Residents won't be able to get back into their houses until at least tomorrow, although they were allowed back briefly this afternoon to collect medicines and other essential items.
It's important, first of all, that we keep residents safe, and so they're all being looked after. We're making sure if they've not got accommodation, they're in hotel accommodation or being looked after as best that we can. Police say it'll take some time for them and the explosive ordnance disposal team to ensure that there are no more devices in the house because of the volume of material that Mr Nelson collected. Officers are now trying to trace his relatives. Well, police say that they and the bomb disposal people will work as quickly as they can through the house here, but they say that public safety remains their top priority. Roger.
Andy, thank you very much. Andy Gill there. Now, the family of a former prison officer wiped away tears in court today as a video was shown of the moment that he was ambushed. The jury heard that Lenny Scott was targeted outside a gym in Skelmersdale in February last year in an act of retaliation, 4 years after seizing a phone from then-prisoner Elias Morgan at HMP Alt Course in Liverpool. Jonas Muller was at Preston Crown Court and explained more on the background to this case.
What we've had over the past 2 days is the prosecution's outline of the case in the trial of two men, Elias Morgan and Anthony Cleary, both from the Edge Hill area of Liverpool. They're accused of the murder of a former prison officer, Lenny Scott. Now, he was shot dead in a car park outside a gym in Skelmersdale last February. Today, footage of the moment he was shot was played to the jury. His relatives were in court. One woman wiped away tears when that footage was shown. We could see the killer walking up to Lenny Scott, and then we could hear the sound of gunshots. 6 shots were fired, 1 to his head and 5 to his body. We could see the 33-year-old collapsing as he tried to run away. The prosecution say the gunman was Elias Morgan, who arrived on an electric bike and then left on an electric bike. That bike was then unloaded onto a van, and then he left the area. The prosecution say that van was brought to the area by Anthony Cleary. Both men deny murder.
And Jonas, what did the prosecution say about the motives behind this shooting?
The prosecution say the killing was what they described as an act of retaliation, and that's because Lenny Scott was a former prison officer. 4 years ago, he found a mobile phone. On that phone, there was evidence of a relationship between Elias Morgan and another prison officer. Now, he was offered money, the prosecution say, to stay quiet, but he didn't, and then the pair were prosecuted. Well, today, Alex Leach Casey said that Lenny Scott was threatened and told that he would get him. He said he would bide his time, but that he would get him. Now, the jury was told that after the shooting, Anthony Cleary made a number of searches on the internet, one called Scam News Now and another on how to delete location history on an iPhone. The prosecution say the evidence reveals a powerful image. They say one in which Elias Morgan, driven by a desire for revenge and reliant on Anthony Cleary for his assistance, planned and executed the murder of Lenny Scott. Both men, the prosecution say, are guilty of his murder. Now, the trial here at Preston Crown Court continues.
And that was Jonas Muller reporting. Now, Greater Manchester Fire and Rescue Service says that they will have to partially demolish an historic city centre building which was damaged by a fire on Monday. We reported this, of course, on Monday as it was happening, and last night as well. Some parts of the 200-year-old Hotspur Press building, a former mill, must be torn down to allow for safer clearing of the wreckage. An investigation is underway into the cause of the blaze. Manchester City Council has become the first in the country to scrap council tax for people living with a terminal illness. It's part of the council's work with the charity Marie Curie, which found that almost half working-age people in the city who died were living in poverty. The council says it means that families will have one less thing to worry about. A pro-Palestine activist from Manchester who was arrested last August is facing nearly 2 years in prison before his trial even gets to court. William Plastow was charged with offences relating to an attack on a defence firm which has links to Israel. He was refused bail, although he wasn't accused of violent offences and he wasn't there when the actual incident took place. His family say it's disgraceful, as Anna Jameson reports.
This is the moment Palestine Action protesters allegedly broke into the Bristol site of a defence firm with links to Israel last August. 34-year-old William Plastow from Manchester is one of those charged. He now faces 21 months on remand. The Crown Prosecution Service has admitted he wasn't even there.
It's been probably the worst year or time of my life that I've ever experienced. You know, we've been together for 10 years. We've lived together for a lot of that time. We were in the middle of planning our wedding and all kinds of things for the future. So it does feel like a half of you is missing.
William is one of the Filton 18, a nickname given to the 18 people who were detained under the Terrorism Act. but none of them were charged with terror offences. William has pleaded not guilty to counts of criminal damage, aggravated burglary and violent disorder.
William has been charged with very serious offences. A lot of people would think, you know what, this could be justified.
Yeah, I can see that some people might not have sympathy. My view is if you believe that someone has committed a crime, then charge them and put them on trial. But I don't see the fairness at all in jailing someone on remand for, 2 years potentially.
William's trial is scheduled for April next year. His mum believes it's the longest anyone has been held in prison pre-trial on protest-related charges.
Will was not given bail, even though I offered to put up £50,000, to have him in my house, to have him tagged, to take all the internet out of my house.
The Ministry of Justice referred us to the Judicial Office, who say it doesn't comment on individual cases. This week, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said she'll prescribe the Palestine Action Group under anti-terror law.
There are no terrorism offences that are alleged to have taken place in this specific case. So it could be argued that this is disproportionate. By the time it gets to trial, it could be the equivalent of a 5-year-plus sentence that could have been served.
But for now, Mr Plastow's trial date of April next year remains unchanged. Anna Jameson, BBC North West Tonight in Manchester.
Now, Greater Manchester's mayor says that the government needs to listen to Labour MPs who are opposed to its planned welfare cuts. More than 130 Labour MPs, including about 20 of them from the North West, are preparing to vote against the changes next week. And Andy Burnham says that the Prime Minister needs to take a look again at the policy.
When the PLP delivers its collective wisdom in such numbers, it is invariably right, and it is right on this. And I would say to the government, listen to the PLP. I met the Greater Manchester Disabled People's Panel today. There is genuine, deep anxiety about these proposals.
That was Andy Burnham on Newsnight last night. Meanwhile, the Health Secretary, Wes Streeting, defended the benefits changes when he was in Blackpool today on a visit. He was there to announce plans to tackle health inequalities by switching over £2 billion of NHS funding from richer areas to poorer ones. And Blackpool will be one of the towns to benefit. It currently has the lowest life expectancy in England. As our health correspondent, Jill Dummigan, reports.
It's mid-morning and Wes Streeting's outlining his vision for a healthier, more equal country.
A baby girl born here in Blackpool will live 7 years less than one born in Wokingham. I know that every pound we spend on diagnosing and treating illness is a pound that can't be spent on tackling the causes of ill health.
Less than 2 miles away, this charity's doing just that. Twice weekly gardening classes to promote healthy eating and tackle social isolation.
I retired and I'd had a stroke, and we came here as a group of stroke people, and I've just carried it on.
I volunteer in the kitchen to help out, and it keeps me level because there's someone that I can turn to and talk to if I'm struggling.
It's just like a little sort of island in the whole of Blackpool, a little quiet space where you can come and literally I forget all my troubles when I come here.
And Blackpool has plenty of troubles. Men in Blackpool have the lowest healthy life expectancy in the country, just 52 years, and women in Blackpool have the second lowest. A lot of that's to do with how people are living. Smoking rates double the national average. A third of the adult population here are obese. High poverty rates, high depression rates. To tackle health inequalities, you have to tackle all of this. Today, Wes Streeting announced more funding for GPs in deprived areas. But what about keeping people healthy? So what you've been talking about is very much public health. Are you going to give more money to public health in places like this?
Well, we are actually working with the Deputy Prime Minister on local government funding, including public health funding, to make sure that it goes to the areas with greatest need.
Back at the charity, like many others, they struggle for funding. They'd like more. Wes Streeting was encouraging.
I reckon we'd get more bang for our buck if we spent some of that money through and with local charities.
But a thornier issue is personal independence payments. A greater proportion of people here are on it than in most places. Both the resort's MPs have signed the letter opposing proposed cuts. What would you say to them?
So right across government, we're taking a whole load of anti-poverty measures, and ultimately we're the Labour Party. We want to tackle poverty and injustice. That is what we're here for. On those things, I think we are all agreed. I think it's on the detail that people have got concerns, and we're working through those details with a view of trying to bring people back together.
Today was a taster for a 10-year health plan, which is expected in the next few weeks. The hope that people here and other areas will finally get the life chances so many others enjoy. Jill Donegan, BBC North West Tonight, Blackpool.
So from healthcare to another issue we've been looking at over the past couple of weeks, and that is waste in the region. Tonight we're going to talk about industrial waste, and specifically we're going to visit some people who are living at Garston in Merseyside. They have a plant which recycles paints and other solvents nearby, and they say it's noisy, it's smelly, and they're worried about any health impacts. However, its operators say that it is safe and it cuts carbon emissions. Here's our environment correspondent, Judy Hobson.
If they can tell me what benefit they're bringing to the city of Liverpool, no disrespect, 40 jobs, little, employ 40 people.
Gary Woolston says he's fighting for his community. He wants this solvent recycling plant shut down. It recycles materials used in manufacturing, such as the solvents which help make microchips in smartphones or ones used in medicines. The operators say it's a critical piece of national infrastructure.
For a place that is so close to houses is extremely concerning to us. It shouldn't be here.
The plant operates around the clock and now has capacity to process 86,000 tonnes of waste every year. The operator told us there's no health risk to residents. The site is continuously monitored by both the Environment Agency and the Health and Safety Executive, and Veolia operates the site in full compliance with its permit and safety obligations. Last year, plans to install 2 new 30-metre towers for recycling more waste were approved by council planners. Almost 600 people submitted objections. Gary and other residents are now asking for a judicial review.
It's very flammable, very toxic. We get the funky smells. You know, Garston is the smelliest place in Liverpool.
Veolia told us, we aim to be a good neighbour to the local community and offer free education to schools, funding to support local projects and a direct line of communication via our webpage for the community to raise any inquiries or concerns.
Garston is a proud part of Liverpool. We want to be proud, we want a community. We haven't got a pub, you know, a chippy. We haven't got a chippy. People are ignored Garston.
The operator says this recycling saves 172,000 tonnes of CO2 emissions every year. But a recent BBC investigation found waste processing sites are more likely to be built in deprived areas. Whatever we do with our waste, whether we bury it, burn it or recycle it, it has a big impact on our communities. Judy Hobson, BBC North West Tonight, Garston.
An issue we will continue to talk about, I'm sure. Now, here are some of the other stories that people are reading this evening from BBC News. And a man who brought cocaine worth £9,000 onto the Isle of Man has been jailed for 7 years. Leon Glover came in on the ferry from Heysham. A family-run garden centre in Preston is to be sold after 61 years because the latest generation doesn't want to take it on. Barton Grange was opened by the Topping family back in 1963. And Iron Maiden singer Steve Harris pulled on a Burnley shirt, for a match after their gig at Co-op Live. A team from the band's tour crew played against staff from the club. Find out more at bbc.co.uk/local news, or as always, you can have a look on the BBC News app. We have been talking about Morham's Eden project for 7 years, I reckon. But there is still nothing to see. If you've been to the resort, you'll know it. But the new boss of the marine environment attraction told us today that work will start later this year after years of delays and questions about funding. And as Davinia Ramos explains, he believes that it will be a game changer for Morecambe.
It's been one of the most talked about projects in the North West, and new images released this month show what it'll look like. As of yet, no building work has actually started, but John Pye, who took over as the projects director recently, has got big plans.
This will be an 11-acre site that is going to be developed over the next few years. We've got lots of structures, lots of gardens, lots of public realm to go in here, so a really sort of exciting delivery phase that we're in at the moment.
He's the brains behind RHS Bridgewater in Salford, a hugely successful enterprise. Eden Project Morham is expected to cost £100 million, but there have been issues with funding.
In terms of the £100 million budget, that is the budget. So we've got to design and deliver to that budget, and we've stress tested it. We've got lots of contingencies and allowances for inflation.
Initially, the attraction was meant to open in 2026, but it's now been pushed back even further. When are we going to see spades in the ground? When are we actually going to see this project start in motion?
We're now in delivery mode. We've got a very structured plan to get us from where we are now through the enabling phase, which is preparing the site, which will happen at the end of this year and start of next year. We're then into the big construction phase through 2027, and then we have a fit-out period in 2028.
The plan is for it to open in winter 2028, but he admits there could be issues.
What we can't predict is the winter weather. We're here on the coast in Morham. It can be unkind to us, but that's the sort of unknown unknowns that might take us slightly off course. But our plans, as at today, are still winter 2028.
With the people of Morham in mind, what can they expect to see and experience when they finally walk through those doors when it opens?
We've got the core, which is the visitor experience, the realm of the sun and the realm of the moon, that sit in between in all of those spaces. And where we are now is actually going to be a beautifully landscaped garden.
The attraction will bring in hundreds of jobs for local people and bring millions to the town.
This is about looking inward. It's about the economic and social benefits that this project is going to really deliver. And it's about connecting people with nature. And when you've got something like this on the backdrop, you've got a brilliant, fantastic visitor attraction. I think it's a winner all round.
Davinia Ramos, BBC North West Tonight in Morham.
We shall look forward to the opening, won't we? Now, weather with Molly in just a minute, but first, a brother and sister from a Cumbrian farming family have set themselves an epic physical challenge. They're cycling, they're swimming and they're running from the west coast of Ireland to the east coast of England. And as they do it, they want to do it to start a conversation in the farming community about mental health, and that follows a family tragedy. Ed Hanson's got the story.
Meet Hugh and Alex, two very energetic people from Kingsmeadburn near Penrith, in training for a big challenge, 349 miles from west to east.
We are doing an ultra triathlon in September. We're planning to cycle across the entire width of Northern Ireland, swim the Irish Sea, cycle across the south of Scotland, and then run Hadrian's Wall, all over 4 days, and we're planning to do it in aid of mental health.
Isn't it great when your big brother comes up with a good idea?
Initial thought was, he's an idiot. Second thought was, this sounds amazing, I definitely want to do it. To be able to do a really once-in-a-lifetime experience across places which mean so much to myself and also my family was just an incredible opportunity.
They're challenging themselves, but they're also challenging the farming community to open up about a taboo subject, mental health. Something that's gone right to the heart of this family.
We unfortunately lost our uncle to suicide when we were much younger, and the shadow of that has really informed our childhood, as well as just the evolving nature of discussions around mental health in agriculture. Farming still has one of the highest suicide rates out of any profession, and there are many studies about the actual impact of depression that impact farmers.
They're raising money for the Royal Agricultural Benevolent Institution, which supports farmers who might be struggling and need someone to talk to.
It's an amazing quality of all these farmers, like the resilience displayed in the community is unbelievable. But I think maybe it sometimes goes a bit far, and encouraging people that you can show the vulnerability, but then also reach out, ask for help is equally admirable as keeping calm and carrying on, really.
Now, though, it's heads down on the training, so they're in shape for September. and a bit of sibling rivalry is helping the motivation.
It's been competitive, yeah. We went out for a swim on Ullswater last night, and I think that we were both looking at each other just thinking who was going to reach out to Norfolk Island first, and yeah, that seems to be the story of our lives at this point.
Yeah, constantly looking at his Strava, seeing, oh, has he done 10-kilometre run? I should go out and do a 12-kilometre run or something.
Ed Hansen, BBC Look North, Kingsmeadburn, Cumbria.
Yeah, we wish Hugh and Alex all the very best with their challenge. Right, let's have a look at the weather, see how it's looking. Molly, I was up in Southport a bit earlier on today. It was quite nice and sunny at times.
Ah, you were one of the lucky ones then, Roger, because it wasn't everywhere. If you were lucky like Rog, there was some blue skies about, but actually, for the majority of the day, we did have a fair bit of cloud. But it has been settled. We've had that ridge of high pressure today, so if you were lucky, there were some blue skies, feeling quite warm as well. But a change is on the way tomorrow. Thank you very much for sending your photos in. If you'd like to send your own in, you can do. You can send them to me on socials, or you can become a weather watcher. So tomorrow, as I mentioned, low pressure takes charge again. So it is going to be a cloudier start to your day with spells of rain throughout. Turning drier and brighter though as we head into the late afternoon. So an improving picture, but it will feel noticeably fresher tomorrow. And this is why. So we have two cold fronts working their way across. That is going to introduce cooler air. The breeze is going to pick up as well, and we are going to see outbreaks of rain. So whilst tonight it has been a settled night, that cloud will start to increase and we will see some outbreaks of rain moving northwards. But in terms of rain, whilst it is a rainy night, it is a mild night, and we're going to get lows of around 14 degrees Celsius. So another warm night like last night. Waking up tomorrow, it's going to be a grey start to your day, but it is going to improve, as I mentioned, and we are going to have a fair bit of rain in the first half of the day, but turning drier and brighter, and we may even see some spells of sunshine tomorrow. But a cooler day, you can see gusts of up to 32 miles per hour, and along the coast, and a high of 21 degrees Celsius. And in terms of the rest of the week, you can see Friday, there will be some more wet and windy weather. Looking drier and brighter at the weekend. Sunday, definitely the better day in terms of sunshine. And then you can see those temperatures increasing as we head into next week, Roger.
So we're talking about another heat wave on the way.
Potential another heat wave, yeah. We'll have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah,
well, could be in some parts anyway.
Don't hold your breath. You never know.
You never know.
Cheers, Molly. Thank you very much. Steve's here with the late news for you at 10:30, but from all the team at 6:30, thank you for your company. Whatever you're doing, have a good evening. Thanks. Bye-bye.